Never cared much for moonlit skies. Never winked back at fireflies. Now that the stars are in your eyes, I'm beginning to see the light. Never went in for afterglow. Candlelight on the mistletoe. Now that you turned the lamp down low, I'm beginning to see the light. Used to ramble through the park, shadow boxing in the dark. Then you came and caused a spark. That's a forlorn fire now. Never went in, made love by candle glow. Never saw rainbows in my wine. Now that your lips touching mine, I'm beginning to see the light. Used to ramble through the park, shadow boxing in the dark. Then you came and caused a spark. That's a forlorn fire now. Never been loved by lantern shine. Never saw rainbows in my wine. Now that your lips touching mine, I'm beginning to see the light. I'm beginning to see the light. I'm beginning to see the light. Yeah, like that. Thank you. Good afternoon, good evening. Welcome. My name is Ken Lullen, and it has been for some time. I brought with me guitars from 1931, 1932. It's a cheap guitar from 1938, and a very cheap one from 1939. And I'll play 3 or 4 songs on each instrument, give you a sense of the sound of these wonderful 80-year-old instruments. And I've got a program I like to call She Did It Her Way, which are fairly famous pop standard songs that were popularized by female vocalists and songwriters back in the 30s and 40s and 50s, etc. I bet you know almost every single one of them. I hope I can throw 1 or 2 obscure ones your way. As a small couple of business notes, this program is presented by the Friends of the Library. They are the sponsors of the program tonight. So I've got a guitar from 1938. Built in Chicago by the Regal Guitar Company. This guitar cost about $15 back in the day. It was made at lunchtime in 1938. And how I know that is because we had to take the neck off a few years ago, and the joint, it's a dovetail joint, the joint was being held together by a couple of popsicle sticks. Once the guys, the luthiers who work on my instruments, took it apart, they shaved the back of the dovetail, put it back in nice and straight. Now the whole neck and body makes music. So I've got a song that was a hit for Les Brown and his band of renown, and his girl singer, that's what they called him back in the day, his girl singer was Doris Day. I'm going to take this one nice and easy in case you want to sing along. People do that at my concerts. They sing along, they hum along, they contort, tap their feet. Gonna take a sentimental journey. Gonna set my heart at ease. Gonna make the sentimental journey to renew old memories. Got my bag, got my reservation. It's spent each dime I could afford, like a child in wild anticipation, long to hear that all aboard. 7, that's the time we leave at 7. I'll be waiting up in heaven, counting every mile of railroad track that takes me back. Never thought my heart could be so yearny. Why did I decide to roam? Gonna make this sentimental journey, sentimental journey home, sentimental journey home. One more. Sentimental journey home. Woo. Thank you. We got a song that was a hit for Joe Stafford in the early 50s. Joe Stafford was a member of a group in the 40s called the Pied Pipers. And some guy by the name of Frank, help me out here. There's got to be a Bobby Soxer in the room. Frank Sinatra. He was part of the Pied Pipers for a short stint, and that's where he made a lot of appreciative notes about Joe Stafford's voice. Everybody liked the way she handled a song. She was a favorite among the GIs, and she became known as G.I. Joe for Joe Stafford. And in let's see if I got this right, 1952 is my 51, 52, she had a hit with this one. See the pyramids along the Nile, watch the jungle on a tropic isle. Just remember, darling, all the while you belong to me. Marketplace in old Algiers, send me photographs and souvenirs. Just remember when a dream appears, you belong to me. So alone without you. Maybe you'll be lonesome too, and blue. Fly the ocean in a silver plane. See the jungle when it's wet with rain. Just remember till you're home again, you belong to me. So I brought a pretty guitar from 1932. This guitar was made also in Chicago. That's mahogany on the back and sides. It's spruce on the top. Spruce is the wood used on all of the guitar tops. Spruce is very flexible. It's also very strong. And it's also used on violins and bass and cellos, etc. What happens is when you strike the strings, it's attached to this piece of wood and makes the whole top vibrate. And the sound that we hear is the top vibrating. And just in case you're wondering, this round thing in the front, everybody calls it a sound hole. Misnomer. That's a big word, I can use that now. It should be called an airport. What happens is if there was no hole in that location and I struck the strings, it would be muffled. When the top vibrates, the air in the chamber has to go somewhere. And so the hole provides a space for the air to move in and out rapidly. So it is an airport, not a sound hole. The sound doesn't come out of the hole. Sound comes off the entire top. So I got a song that was a hit for Cab Calloway in 1931. Most people don't remember him, that zoot seating guy. Nor do they remember that Artie Shaw had a big hit with his little combo with this. What they remember is when Billie Holiday got her hands on this song. Now, I don't do it like she does. She does it bluesy and mellow at the same time. That's kind of hard. Must have been moon glow way up in the blue. Must have been moon glow that led me straight to you. I still hear you saying, dear one, hold me fast. And I started praying, oh Lord, please let this last. People used to dance to this. That's why I like that beat. Remember dancing? That's when two adults would move together in time to the music. They'd get closer and closer and closer and closer. And adult things would happen on the dance floor. Nowadays, two people move in the same room, and that's it. That's what they call dancing. And now when there's moon glow way up in the blue, I always remember that moon glow gave me you. We seem to float right through the air. Heavenly songs seem to come from everywhere. And now when there's moon glow way up in the blue, I always remember that moon glow gave me you. Thank you. I learned this song from the singing of Ella Fitzgerald. She recorded 2 albums with Louis Armstrong in the early 50s. It's hard to tell who I listen to more, Louis and the way he cuts up on a record, or Ella with that magnificent instrument called her voice. Let's fall in love, why shouldn't we fall in love? Our hearts are made of it. Let's take a chance. Why be afraid of it? Let's close our eyes and make our own paradise. Little we know of it, still we can try to make a go of it. We might have been made for each other, to be or not to be. Let our hearts discover. Let's fall in love. Why shouldn't we fall in love? Now is the time for it while we are young. Let's fall in love. Let's fall in love. Let's fall in love. Why not take all of me? Can't you see I'm no good without you? Take my lips, I want to lose them. Take my arms, I'll never use them. Your goodbye left me with eyes that cry. How can I go on, dear, without you? You took the part that once was my heart, so why not take all of me? Left me with eyes that cry. How can I go on, dear, without you? You took the part that once was my heart, So why not take all of me? Why not take all of me? Mildred Bailey was a very big jazz singer in the 30s. Was on records, on radio, and a bunch of movies. It's a song that was a hit for her and Al Jolson in 1935. So this song is older than I am. Every time your lips say no, sir, I won't listen, I'm too wise. I would rather listen to your eyes. They have told me lots of things, dear, that you're better self-denied. So I'd rather listen to your eyes. There is nothing you could ever say that could convey promise I've been waiting for. I look into your eyes and I realize they tell me so much more. Eyes can be sincere and truthful. Lips can tell a lot of lies. So I'd rather listen to your eyes. There's nothing you could ever say that could convey promise I've been waiting for. I look into your eyes and I realize they tell me so much more. Eyes can be sincere and truthful. Lips can tell a lot of lies. So I'd rather listen to your eyes. This pretty thing is from about 1931, also made by the Regal Company in Chicago, Illinois. It was distributed by a company in Manhattan on University Place called B&J. Company was in business distributing, wholesaling musical instruments for about 50, 60 years, and in the 70s they disappeared. This guitar cost about $18 in 1931. This is mahogany on the back, that same nice grain. Spruce on the top, and it has, more so than almost any other guitar, what we call a sunburst. Looks like the sound's coming right out of the middle, and it's just how they gussy it up to finish it. The song that comes to mind about Kate Smith is a song called Dream a Little Dream of Me from 1931. I know that this song was written in 31 and introduced in Boston in April of 31 by Kate Smith. And how I know that is I sang this song for a crowd in Red Bank, New Jersey, across the pond that way. And afterwards, a lady came up to me after the concert and she announced that she was 96 years old. She was a former Rockette dancer at Radio City Music Hall. She told me Mickey Rooney was a stage door Johnny who came to the back of the Radio City Music Hall, tried to pick her up with a big bouquet of flowers. She said, I took him out. But I didn't have to marry the guy. I'm wandering off. I'm going to come back to Kate Smith. So she taught me about stage door Johnnies. And the songs that I was singing, Dream a Little Dream of Me, she said, I remember seeing Kate Smith introduce that song in Boston in 1931, in April of 31. And I said, oh, that's fabulous. Here we are, 80, at the time it was 80 years later. And of course, whenever a 96-year-old person tells me something, I believe every word, I'm not gonna dispute the matter. So I said, who was there? Who was singing? Who was dancing? What was going on? Where was this? Who was with you? I want to know, tell me, and I'll start telling folks about this song, and I'll remember you and dating Mickey Rooney and all this other stuff. She says, I don't remember much. I'm an old lady. So I said, okay, I'll take what I can get. What do you remember about that day? She says, well, I was there with my sister and I was wearing a blue dress. So I introduced this song, Star Shining Bright Above You, for a couple of months, talking about the lady and her sister in the blue dress. Till one night in Bethlehem, PA, a man came up to me afterwards and said, I built the theater. I said, what are you talking about? He said, I built the theater where the lady, the sister in the blue dress were singing and Kate Smith. Turns out this guy helped build the Metropolitan Theater on Tremont Street in Boston in 1927. So he, at that point, this was about 2005. So God knows how old he was. But he come up and he said, 1927, I helped build that thing. So a couple of years ago, I was up in Boston and I looked this place up, the Metropolitan Theater. The building and the theater is still there. But in the 70s, it ran into disrepair. And some computer guy, restored the thing, spent $11 million in the late 80s, early 90s, fixing the place up. Man's name was Ann Wang. Computer guy, they have all the money, you know. And they named the joint after him, the Ann Wang Center for the Performing Arts. And all they did was put a big coat of white paint on the outside and left the inside the way it was, pristine. Gorgeous place, gorgeous, gorgeous place. Some things haven't changed, you know, in, let's see, 1927, that would make it 92 years old, right? So, this is for the lady and her sister and her blue dress. Stars shining bright above you. Night breezes seem to whisper, I love you. Birds singing in a sycamore tree. Dream a little dream of me. Say nighty night and kiss me. Just hold me tight and tell me you'll miss me while I'm alone and blue as can be. Dream a little dream of me. Stars fading while I linger on, still craving your kiss. I'm longing to linger till dawn, just saying this. I hear you. Sweet dreams till sunbeams find you. Sweet dreams and leave your worries behind you. But in your dreams, whatever they be, dream a little dream of me. I like to tell people that I'm still in love with Peggy Lee. She was with Benny Goodman's orchestra for 2.5 years. Benny Goodman did not think very highly of his girl singers. He used to call them his canaries, because he knew he had to have a pretty girl at the front of the orchestra to bring the boys to buy the tickets for the program. He was cheap. He didn't pay his musicians very much money. And on top of that, in 1941, he was having a fight with Helen Forrest, who was his girl singer at the time. Wonderful woman, wonderful voice. And she was at the microphone waiting to be cued to begin singing her song. And Benny Goodman was mad at her, so he never cued her in. She just stood there, and he just kept playing his clarinet and going on and on. So she finally stomped off and walked out on the guy. He went out to the Ambassador Inn for dinner a couple of nights later, and that's where he and Benny Goodman and his girlfriend saw Peggy Lee singing. You had plenty money in 1922. Let other women make a fool of you. Why don't you do right like some other men do? Get out of here, get me some money too. If you had prepared 20 years ago, you wouldn't be wandering now from door to door. Why don't you do right like some other men do? Get out of here, get me some money too. Well, I fell for your jiving and I took you in. Now all you got to offer me's a drink of gin. Why don't you do right like some other men do? Get out of here, get me some money too. This one has that dance beat. I like this dance beat. Somebody else is taking my place. Somebody else now shares your embrace. While I am trying to keep from crying, you go round with a smile on your face. Little you care for vows that you've made. Little you care the price I have paid. My heart is aching, soon will be breaking. Somebody's taking my place. Somebody's taking my place. Now, I mentioned that Peggy Lee married the guitar player in Benny Goodman's band, a man by the name of Dave Barber. Now, she also wrote this next song with Dave Barber. I know a little bit about a lot of things, but I don't know enough about you. You got me in a spin, oh what a stew I'm in. Baby, what can I do? I read the latest news, no buttons on my shoes, but lately I'm confused about you. You got me in a spin, oh what a stew I'm in, 'cause I don't know enough about you. Jack of all trades, master of none, and isn't it a shame? I'm so sure that you'd be good for me if you'd only play my game. Now I'm nobody's fool, 'cause I went to school. That is to say, until I met you, I know a little bit about a lot of things, but I don't know enough about you. Jack of all trades, master of none, And isn't it a shame? I'm so sure that you'd be good for me if you'd only play my game. You know, I went to school and I'm nobody's fool. That is to say, until I met you, I know a little bit about a lot of things, but I don't know enough about you. Know a little bit about biology, little more about psychology. I'm a gem at geology, but I don't know enough about you. In the 30s, Gene Autry was on records, he was on the radio, he was in the movies, very, very popular. The record company that he recorded with was owned by Sears Roebuck. This is where the plot thickens. The people at Sears Roebuck owned the Harmony Guitar Company. And in the 30s, they figured out that if they put Gene's name on stuff, guitars, they could sell more guitars for the Harmony Company, which Sears and Roebuck owned. But Gene said, I got a better thought than that. Gene had an agent who went to the Cap Pistol Company in Iowa someplace and had his name put on the Cap Pistols. And he went to clothing stores, clothing manufacturers, and had his name and his little roundup rodeo guy put on boots, pajamas, hats, belt buckles, belts, shoes, ties, tie pins. And now the way this worked was his agent would make 25% of whatever they gave him. He made about 10%. So this guitar cost $9.95. He made about $1. Out of that dollar, 25 cents went to his agent, and Gene got 75 cents. They sold tens of thousands every year of just the guitars. Now, back to my girl singers. I got a story about the DeCastro sisters in the early 50s. They had a hit called Teach Me Tonight. They were mentored, that's the word we would use today, by Carmen Miranda, who made a good living for herself in the movies and as a singing star in the 40s and into the 50s. The DeCastro sisters came from Cuba, three young girls, and they picked up a song that was a hit for Joe Stafford, and they liked it. Nat King Cole liked it too, but that's a story for another day. So I'm going to play a DeCastro song on a cheap guitar from 1939. Did you say I've got a lot to learn? Well, don't think I'm trying not to learn, since this is the perfect spot to learn. Teach me tonight. Starting with the A, B, C of it, right down to the X, Y, Z of it. Help me solve the mystery of it. Teach me tonight. The sky's a blackboard high above you. If a shooting star goes by, I'll use that star to write I love you 1,000 times across the sky. One thing isn't very clear, my love. Should the teacher stand so near, my love? Graduation's almost here, my love. Teach me tonight. Sadie Vimmerstedt was a bobby soxer in the 40s into the 50s. Now, if you go to Google and you put in bobby soxer, what you get back is big fan of Frank Sinatra. That's what a bobby soxer was, all right? And Sadie, Indiana, this woman, she was very, very upset when Frank Sinatra left Nancy, the girl with the laughing eyes, his first wife, and started hanging out with that Ava Gardner person. And then he married her. And so that was not okay with Sadie. Then it got worse. Ava Gardner left Frank because she had movies to do and he had songs to sing elsewhere. And she was very upset that they broke up. You know, she went through all this stuff to dump Nancy, and now you get. So, because she was upset, she was getting a head of steam, as the expression goes. Then she was really crazy mad when Ava Gardner took up with a Spanish matador on one of her film sets. And Frank was beyond himself, because Frank would go to these locations where she was filming, and she'd say, "Meet me at the hotel," and then she'd not show up. And so he went bananas, and then he had to go back because he had dates, singing concert dates in the States, so he had to leave. So the man was in trouble, as the expression goes. But Sadie, back in Indiana, decided to do something about her anger. And she sat down and started to write a song. I want to be around to pick up the pieces when somebody breaks your heart. And that's as far as she got. One line. Pretty amazing line. So she realized she was beyond finishing it herself. So she put it in an envelope and on a letter and sent it to Johnny Mercer. Said, "Here, you smarty pants, you finish this thing." So he finished the song. And he gave her half the royalties. If you see a recording or you hear this song, doesn't matter who, you will see Sadie Vimmerstedt and Johnny Mercer on the label. So there is hope for us and all of the girls in Indiana. I want to be around, pick up the pieces. Somebody breaks your heart. Somebody twice as smart as I. Somebody who will swear to be true like you used to do with me, who'll leave you to learn misery loves company. Wait and see. I want to be around to see how he does it. And he breaks your heart to bits. Let's see if the puzzle fits so fine. That's when I'll remember that revenge is sweet. I sit there applauding from a front row seat. And somebody breaks your heart like you broke mine. Thank you. Had to get that story about Sadie in there. Take good care. All right. So, we promised Rosemary Clooney. I think Rosemary Clooney had the best voice, although I'm kind of pushing Ella Fitzgerald a little bit. And the thing about the way Rosemary Clooney is the way she handled a song. Not just her voice, but she had a way of handling a song. This next song, and I'm going to send you home on this one, and after that I'm going to wish you a good summer. Again, the Friends of the Library were our sponsor tonight. They're the big cheese in this joint. This busy place. Oh, before I forget, speaking of Friends of the Library, I just want to remind you that it was a librarian who beat James Holzhauer on Jeopardy. A 27-year-old librarian from Chicago, someplace like that. So don't tell me you can't do it when you get to the library, all right? Where am I going with this? A man by the name of Frank Lesser wrote this next and last song. He was playing poker one night, and one of the out of the four or five guys at the table, one of the guys lost every single pot. And one of the other guys turned to this losing guy and said, "I'd like to get on a slow boat to China with you playing poker." And that's for my poker playing friends in the back. Frank Lesser remembered that line at the poker game, sat down and wrote this song. When I practice this song at home to my wife, who has been listening to me sing for 35 years, she knows what I'm talking about. I'd love to get you on a slow boat to China, all to myself alone. Get you and keep you in my arms evermore. Leave all your lovers weeping on a faraway shore. Out on the briny, with the moon big and shiny, melting your heart of stone. I'd love to get you on a slow boat to China, all to myself alone. I'd love to get you on a slow boat to China, all to myself alone. All to myself alone. Thank you. Thank you very much. You're good. I'm going to let you go home with that. I want to thank you. I hope to see you next year again like this. All right. And in the meanwhile, I wish you good health and take good care of each other.